All year round, Frontier Home Products and Design has what you need to make your home comfortable and beautiful. Relax on a new timber tech deck designed by Frontier's experts. A new fireplace from Frontier Home Products Fireplace Gallery adds warmth and serenity to any home. Beauty and versatility at Frontier Home Products and Design Center, 4213 Peachtree, 5th next to the Bayfront Highway.
Frontier Home Products and Design Center. Discover a new frontier.
PA contractor number PA039007.
Get paid to drive. Start a new career behind the wheel at the EMTA. If you are looking for a high-paying and rewarding career with full benefits and paid training, stop by or apply online today with the EMTA. Plus, EMTA riders can now enjoy free Wi-Fi on new, clean, and environmentally friendly buses to travel all over Erie County. Visit ridethee.com for more information.
Get on board EMTA. Get on board EMTA. Get on board.
Welcome to TalkErie.com's Joel Natale Show, Erie, Pennsylvania's daily podcast. Every day, we tackle the biggest issues that the Erie, PA region faces. Stay informed and involved as we advance the narrative of Erie. Now, here's Joel Natale.
I'm glad to meet Dylan Knight. He's the Chief Technical Officer or Technology Officer for Centrix, also a Millcreek native living here in the expansive renaissance of downtown Erie. Dylan, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You reached out to us and said, hey, let's chat.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah.
It's Friday. Well, let's chat.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so You've been around the block. You have a PhD from Pitt in computer science.
Mm-hmm.
Where you grew up in Erie? Did you go to McDowell?
I grew up in Millcreek. Graduated from McDowell. I left after that. Went to college in a small town in very top of New York. Got my bachelor's there.
Lots of snow.
Yeah. Well, it was so far up in New York that it would snow in like November and then would get too cold to snow. And the snow would just stick around until like May. And then we would finally get a thaw.
So the Tucko Plateau is like south of you, probably?
Or I don't know what
you know, that's like the cold air coming off of Lake Ontario.
Yeah, that's
just dumping.
Yeah, that's like right above Syracuse.
Right. Yeah,
we were further up.
Further up. Wow.
2 hours from Montreal.
Yeah, I was gonna say you might as well be in Canada. Right.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That we would go there to drink when we were 19.
Okay. and then you get your PhD from Pitt and you're a software developer. I mean, have you been in the software space most of your career?
Yeah. I did internships while I was in school at like the major companies, IBM and Google, and then I started doing one internship at a small tech startup in Manhattan, and just kind of more or less fell in love with that model where like the big companies were kind of boring, and I didn't feel like I was really contributing a whole lot, and I didn't have a whole lot of impact on the product or anything. And then in academia, it was cool because I was working on new stuff that was, like no one had ever done before, and I got to be the expert on it. But I never really got to implement it because you just kind of like prove that it can work, and then you're like, okay, fine, on to the next problem. You never implement it, you never get it out in front of people and actually have them use it and watch them like interact with it and give you feedback.
Right.
Startup companies are the best of both worlds because you're working on something new. Every startup has some new technology or product that they're trying to put out in the world. They're trying to do something. And you actually get to build it and put it out there. And because the teams are so small, the feedback you get is almost immediately. You get to have a huge impact as a developer, just writing a bunch of code, building a product, making sure it doesn't break anything, and then getting out there and like having people use it and say like, oh man, this is cool, or I don't like this part. I don't know, could you change this? Could you add this feature? Could you do X, Y, and Z? It's really fulfilling.
So you started around, 15 years ago? You've been out of school now? Or
yeah, it was, I got my PhD in 2014.
Okay, so 10 years.
Yeah, so I was doing, like, the internships were before that. The startup, that I started at, continued, actually, like, paid me part-time while I finished my PhD. Nice. And then I started full-time with them. They shut down because they lost a Supreme Court case, or a company that was going to purchase us lost a Supreme Court case, and then they didn't get funding. So then we had to shut down because we were lost our buyer.
Right.
So then I went to another startup in Manhattan that was actually this food company that had like this fully integrated model where and I came in as the only engineer, and I got to develop this entire platform for them that basically ran the entire company. So we had a customer-facing ordering app, so it would be like, you could get the app and then order food from our restaurant essentially.
Yeah.
And then we also at another point in time had a bunch of cafes that we were maintaining. So I built the POS app for that.
Right.
We had a back end website for our admin team to manage orders and put in corporate orders and stuff like that. There's all the logistics software to take those orders and deliver them down to our kitchen, spread them out by prep station, so that they could fill the orders. And then we had an app for our delivery team so that they could be assigned an order, know where to pick it up, where to take it. At one point, so we had another point, we had a logistics hub that we had to route orders through, and so that was some fun networking kind of stuff. So then I ended up leaving that company, and through some proper negotiation, I got to keep all that software when I left, and so I still have it, and I've been actually talking to the EDDC about deploying it here, because I feel like it's got to be used. I just want it to be out there in the world, because
is that would you be competing with a company like Toast?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Toast, and it's altogether, it's basically a combination of Toast, Shopify, and Grubhub.
Okay.
So it would need some work to expand to be multiple companies, to support multiple companies. And I've been in my free time slowly working on it to modernize it, because the code that I wrote in 2015 is a little old now.
Right.
So I've had to update it a little bit.
Are you? What's your take on this whole idea of these ghost kitchens, where basically you have a Moe's, but you also sell chicken out of the back room or something like that, So the thing that I think, and it's all delivery, right?
Yeah. So for people who don't know, a ghost kitchen is a space that is kind of hidden somewhere. It's a giant kitchen that is in cheap real estate. So the thing about a restaurant is you have to have good real estate so that people in a good atmosphere, right? And so that's a huge cost for the restaurant. If you are delivery only, you can move that expense to cheaper real estate that's hidden somewhere, that's in a worse area, and then you just deliver the food, and that you save a bunch of money that way. If that model works, it's more cost effective. At least when we were working at it in Savory, it's more cost effective than Starbucks, because Starbucks also can work on really cheap real estate. And Chipotle was the other one that could do cheap real estate. So it was better business model than those ones. My take on it is that there's still something about sitting down with people and having a meal that is core to being a human for some reason.
Of course, yeah.
I like it. People seem to like it. And so I don't think that's going away, but the concept itself, I do like. I order food a lot, but since moving here, Grubhub is so slow, because drivers have to go everywhere. So our food always comes cold and whatever. So the delivery experience here is just not as good as, Manhattan was awesome, but
okay, that really begs a question about ground transportation too, because we have a huge issue. We do not have a taxi company, which you would think is that's old technology, but we also don't have seemingly enough Lyft and Uber drivers, and so when you arrive on a plane, it could be dicey, especially a last flight of the night,
Yeah, I forget the last flight I took, but I ended up not booking it out of Erie because of that issue, like the
No
return,
ground transportation.
The return flight, I couldn't even get like a hotel out by there or something, right? So like,
Right. Yeah.
so I had to I flew out of Pittsburgh I think, for my last one. But yeah, I think that problem here is more one of like the population shrinking in Erie County, as far as I understand it.
Sure.
And we keep developing further and further away from the city center. So that seems counterintuitive to me. Like we should be instead consolidating and trying to recycle housing instead of letting it decay and build on virgin land.
Of course, yeah.
If we did that, then that would solve a lot of these problems of transportation, because the Uber, Lyft drivers wouldn't have to drive as far, so they wouldn't be as far away whenever you put in your request. So then they would get to you faster, they would get to your food faster, they could get it delivered faster.
Well, and it kind of begs this question of, we've got a new economy, basically, Dylan, as far as it's an app-based economy, yet it's reliant upon, a really solid traditional economy. And so if you want that meatball omelet from Dominic's, you're hoping that you can order that in the middle of the night. Well, you can't, because they're closed by 2 o'clock or whatever it is. And again, I don't just want to pick on them, but I mean, we don't have any place that stays open like they used to, or the overnight place that the kids would go to after a night on the town.
I miss, I didn't discover them until I was in Manhattan, but there's a company called Insomnia Cookies that's open till 3 a.m, and they will deliver you warm cookies at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
If I were a stoner, that would probably be the greatest thing ever. And
we're glad that you're not.
Yeah. Well, I am too. But just that's all that they did. It's an easy bake oven in a little hole in the wall, and they deliver you warm cookies. And they're expanding. They're in Pittsburgh now. They weren't there whenever I was living there. But we need one here, or we need like Ye Olde Sweet Shop to
stay open.
They're open they're there at 3 a.m. They're just not.
They're making stuff.
Yeah.
You were telling me that you got your degree in your PhD in 2014. You've been writing code for much longer than that.
Yep.
Now we're in a situation where we can engage AI to be your partner in writing code.
Yep.
So what's the latest, and what's your take on all of that?
Ooh, yeah, I guess what I found is there is the reality of what we have right now. There is an enormous amount of hype about what's coming next, and
there's a gap there, isn't there?
There is a huge gap right there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of in the middle or on the fence of it.
Have you used it to write routines? I mean, the mundane stuff. See, when I heard about AI, and again, I'm preaching to you. I'm sorry, but when I heard about AI, I'm like, well, this will be great for the coders, because all the mundane junk, they can get the AI to do subroutines, and then they can write the fancy stuff.
Yeah,
is that the reality?
Kind of. There's what I would call boilerplate. It's the stuff that for any one project to the next, it's the same code has to be.
And when you're writing an app, it has to be the same code.
There's some parts of any app that are always the same. So AI is great for generating. If you say, hey, generate me a project for XYZ, it can throw out the same code that it's seen a billion times. I'm also from a scientific standpoint, the idea that the matrix multiplications that are happening inside a model are designed off of what we believe to be how our neurons function in our brain. And so what we've found since the 2018 paper, the All You Need Is Attention paper, which was what proposed the transformer. I'm not going to get into what that is, but it was the next step forward that it enabled ChatGPT.
Okay.
Since that paper and the work that we've seen that just by like scaling up the size of these models, basically adding more parameters to these matrix multiplications, it's like adding more neurons to the system. And the hype now is like, well, we're just going to keep adding more neurons, and eventually we'll get to the size of like a fly's brain, and then I don't know what the next size higher, bigger brain is, but we'll get to a sufficiently big enough set of neurons that it will mirror our own brains, and it will be as intelligent as we are. So like, there's no more roadblocks. It's clear skies from here to like advanced, like artificial general intelligence. We're going to have them as soon as we build the big enough machine to process.
Sentience is what we're going for, right?
I'm like, that's the hype
Scary.
that's there. What I'm a little skeptical of that. I think that like we will get like marginal improvement as we scale up, but it might hit a plateau. Right. It may not, but it will probably hit a plateau, and we'll need more innovation to like get to artificial general intelligence.
I mean, like for us here, and this is what concerns us, is that it really seems to be excelling in the creative arts, right? And so if I were to look back to July of 2023 and I told ChatGPT or Claude AI, write a radio spot for a tech company called Centrix, it would be super clunky and like really weird, like somebody who was translating from a foreign country into English, right?
Okay.
By the time Christmas hit in the first of 2024, it was a whole lot better. Right now, it writes about as good as I write, in at least in advertising copy. Yeah, and it's like, I mean, that's an awfully fast loop.
Yeah. So we're seeing that increase, but I would argue that's linear increase. We're not seeing like an exponential one, and we need an exponential one to approach like human intelligence.
Okay, that makes sense.
I've kind of seen the same thing with code. I use Claude now for like my coding assistant, and where I used ChatGPT before through GitHub Copilot, and it that was really annoying. Like the code that it would propose and write would often, like, almost always be wrong, or I would want to change it and whatever. And so this like advertised like productivity gain that it would give to developers, I just never realized.
Yeah,
Claude is a step above, and the interface that Cursor gives us is it's another app that we use for coding. It gives us a little bit better for it, and so I get a little bit of a productivity boost. But I haven't seen like oh my god, this is so much better. It's impressive, but it hasn't like improved dramatically for me.
So it's not necessarily like this reliable assistant for you as an advanced coder.
It takes some of the burden off, but it's not reliable yet.
Interesting.
But
what about this imagery stuff though too? Like,
that's cool.
I mean, it's but it's almost scary. Like they could put Taylor Swift on the Niagara, sailing in Lake Erie, and it's flawless. Yeah. I mean, at least they're not doing the 6-finger thing like they were doing there for a while, right?
Yeah, it's it's impressive. I'm like I guess like the thing I would say about anything in the creative space is that like one, it gets used for bad purposes,
right?
And the other is how quickly the people who are hyping this up just are so quick to talk about putting all these people out of work, and not like it's like I always like the conversation was around self-driving cars a while because of Elon for a while. And I sympathize with like, well, what are we going to do with all the truck drivers then? There's 3 million of them. How do we don't have enough like replacement jobs for these people. Like, why are we talking about this? Yeah. And now it's coming for like me personally, because of like the CEO of Amazon is like, oh, we're going to replace developers with this. I'm like, this is what I've trained to do. I love doing this. This is like my calling on this planet. And And he's just like, okay, you're worthless now.
I find it funny that, before the pandemic, they were saying, yeah, don't go into the truck driving business because,
It'll be
we're
gone.
going to be replaced in 3 years. And then during the pandemic, it's like, please, please come deliver our toilet paper from, to Walmart because our supply chain is totally crumpled.
So that's the disconnect between the like hype and the reality.
Yeah.
So that like maybe we don't have to worry, but why talk about it? Like why put that fear into people unless you want them to like take a pay cut or something? I don't like, and it seems so
there's some
heartless.
ethics that needs to be engaged.
Quickfill gasoline is made right here in America. United Refining Company, who operates Quickfill, refines its gasoline from North American crude oil in Warren, Pennsylvania. When you buy United Refining Company gasoline at Quickfill, you keep jobs and businesses in America. And you keep American families strong. You don't need to send your money overseas when you buy gasoline. Buy American-made gasoline at Quickfill. Quickfill, driving America.
From baggage claim to pajamas in 10 minutes. Erie International Airport. Fly with ERI.com.
Fly Erie International Airport to Charlotte on American Airlines, your nonstop gateway to the world. Also, we have Breeze Airways flying nonstop to Orlando and Tampa, Florida. A great low-cost carrier providing excellent service to the regional community. Fly Erie International for your travel needs.
Fly with ERI.com.
I kind of want to broaden our focus from tech to kind of being a boomerang for Erie, Dylan, and of course, first off, why'd you come back home?
Good question. It was during the pandemic. I switched jobs to a company, to Centrix actually, that was fully remote. So all of our team we don't have the headquarters.
It still is.
Yeah. So our whole team is spread out all over the country. Our CEO's in Georgia, product guys in Montana, sales guys in Texas. Jeez. We just work over the internet with each other. So I got that job, and it afforded me the opportunity to leave Manhattan. And so why am I paying this much rent? Or at least why am I getting this little space for this much rent? And my girlfriend and I had visited family that I still have here a couple of times, and she actually liked it here. So she's like,
she's from what part of town?
Upstate New York.
Okay.
So like Newburgh area.
Yeah.
And so she liked it here, and
the
she's
Hudson
like,
Valley.
Hudson Valley. She's like, why don't we move to Erie? And I'm like, anywhere else. It could be, why not? It's cheap, and we'll go see what, like, I'll be closer to the family. Like, I love my niece and nephew, so I love being close to them. And so, yeah, we moved back here for that, and I work from home from here, and yeah.
All right, so talk about like the assets that you had available to bear. Let's say in Manhattan. Again, I know that's an extreme example, but I mean, yeah, you have. I mean, you're going to have a lot of assets when you have that kind of consolidated population. But what are the things that you liked that kept you productive here in Erie? I'm interested in seeing what assets that you're attaining.
Like
your connectivity, your living space, your quality of life. You know?
I really like a walkable neighborhood. I had that in Pittsburgh when I was doing my PhD there. And when I got to Manhattan, it was kind of that on steroids. Like, you can go out your front door and, like, everything's in a walkable distance.
Where were you on the island?
I started off in Chelsea, kind of like in the middle on 6th Avenue, and then I slowly moved east towards Kips Bay.
Is that close to the UN? Or?
Yeah, it's a little south of the UN.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's... I loved that, like, I was a 20-minute walk from work. I was about a 30-minute walk from Whole Foods, the grocery store that I tend to shop at. And I had a movie theater within like a 5-minute walk, and Starbucks was always around the corner. And my gym was also a pretty close walk. So like having all of that around was awesome. And I like not relying on a car because if it breaks down or public transportation, it's a lot of logistics there.
So did you even own a car in the city?
I didn't own one in Pittsburgh, and I didn't when I started at Pittsburgh. I didn't own a car. I got a car eventually, but then I sold it, and I didn't have one when I was in Manhattan.
So you bought one when you came home?
I had to buy one when we came to Erie. That was the first thing that we did, and it was during the chip shortage. So we were running around. We went out to Ohio to get a car because there was the inventory here wasn't sufficient.
Well, we don't have it. Did you buy a Tesla or what?
No, okay. I'm glad I didn't now. Okay. But I living here, there's no electric car chargers.
No.
They just built a parking garage and there's no EV stations in it. I don't understand why there aren't. But so I don't have anywhere to charge an EV. I would have gotten one if I did have a place. The apartment I live in, like next door over here, also has a parking spot and no EV charging. So we had to get a hybrid. Gotcha. That's why we ran around all over the place. I was looking for at least a hybrid car. So we got a Hyundai Elantra. So I'll give a name check for that.
A little plug, yeah.
Best mileage you can get.
So walkable is important to you.
When we first moved here, there was the Starbucks right around the corner, and then the food co-op was around the corner, and those are both gone. But thankfully, like we've got the bakery that opened up. That's awesome, Ember and Forge. It's got good drip coffee. I don't like their espresso, but but yeah, they're great places to hang out and meet people, and like just sit and work and have some.
Is that fresh place near you open anymore? Or?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
Okay.
I've seen like the district manager or the owner. I'm not sure. I've met him once or twice. He's been around, but I don't know if
you've not eaten there.
I did a couple of times, but yeah, not regularly.
Okay.
Like I said, I have a pretty strict diet that I follow, and
what about like Wegmans or Giant Eagle? Like, where do you like to do the big shop? You like to go to the co-op, right? I mean,
I do the co-op. I actually make a trek out to Whole Foods in Ohio every 2 weeks for most of my food, and then we go to Wegmans for the other stuff that we don't need to go all the way out there for.
Yeah.
So the like Whole Foods just has a couple of brands that the co-op doesn't. So and they have a little bit more variety. So so I just have been in the habit of going there, and still do. So.
What are some other things that you kind of really wish, and again that would have broad appeal, but it's interesting that we don't have it here in Erie.
I think the main thing that's on my mind is the real estate is a little I want to say homogenous, but it's also like just like separated. So like you have all of the like middle class housing in this area, and then there's like the $1 million mansions are over here, and then the Hands apartments are all over here, and so it's all. Whereas in like Manhattan, those would be more or less mixed. They are separated a little bit, but it's like there's a diversity of like a penthouse, and then you've got whatever apartments below it. And then the other thing, I guess like what I would like to see is like the missing middle of like medium dense housing. So ideally, I would have like if I were gonna stay here long term, would be like a townhouse or a row house that has more space than what these apartments offer, is actually livable. So there's like storage space in like a basement or an attic where I could have
your own garage, maybe.
Yeah, like Christmas decorations you could actually put somewhere, or like if I had a hobby of like a piano, or my girlfriend's actually an artist, so having like an art studio or space for an art studio would be cool. And having my man cave of like multiple monitors, and like you don't want to see what my my desk would look like. But I'm also like being a techie. I would love to deck it out with smart home automations and make it as energy efficient as possible. And so that would require some like construction that is like up to newer standards, like passive house design. with more amenities like EV charging, a smart home panel, maybe geothermal heating, heat pumps, the heat recovery ventilation, triple pane windows. I could go on. But,
right.
But if it's like, if I was building my own house, like out in the sticks in Fairview or whatever, and contributing to this problem of sprawl, I could do all of that. If it's in a walkable neighborhood, I have to rely on a developer to build that for me, or at least put the infrastructure in place so that I can do the home improvements to bring that up to what I want, like put in all the home automation stuff. And I don't know that there's a market for that here.
Well, I mean, there could be a limited market, but I think it would probably have to be a scenario where you would have to really kind of go full core. And this is the wrong way to say, but gentrification. You'd have to say, okay, we are clearing 3 crappy houses on the west side, maybe near Gridley Park, or where our West Bayfront is, for example, and just go full in on a high tech multifamily or row houses, townhouses.
I would
that kind of deal.
Hey, if there's anyone out there who agrees with me, I would do.
But they would be like $350 a piece.
I would do a housing co-op kind of situation with other people if they wanted to go in on it. Which is commonplace in Manhattan. Like I don't know if you're for the cliche of like the co-op board and like approving all this stuff. Like that kind of thing would I would do here if the opportunity is right. But barring that, like even just having like the medium dense like row houses or something that are a little bit more spacious and like livable in the like down here, walkable amongst all of the other amenities that are coming in and whatever would be amazing, I think.
What about social life? Like what do you feel like we've got going for ourselves? Again, there's really a lot of strife of having the Lake Erie Ale Trail and having all of these amenities. Whether it's craft beers or cool cafes. You're starting to see it, right?
I'm a bit of a nerd. I don't know if you. So I'm maybe like, I guess like the thing that worries me is like I just am so attentive to these trends that the next generations coming up are not going out as much, and they are more or less been addicted to their phones and are starting to like date through their phones, and like that's the primary way that they interact. And I even remember just like seeing this like happen when I was in Pittsburgh, when I used to go out a lot, that after a couple of years, like the attendance at like bars and clubs and stuff just started to fall off. Like the college,
even in Pittsburgh,
even the college kids coming up after me were not like, I was doing my PhD, so I was watching like, the younger college kids coming in, just were not going out as much. So I guess what I worry about is just like that trend continues, and given the like, I mean, the propensity for us to get everything delivered, which is a bit ironic coming from me because I have this delivery app, but but just to have everything delivered to us means that one, we can live further away from each other, and I don't know that that's a good thing. And then it also just contributes to the fact that it's harder to like have these amenities and to like have shared experiences that or venues that we can have the shared experiences in, because they're all just getting kind of decimated by like the Netflix is like killing everything.
The forecast is murky for the idea of building a sense of place and community, even as we try to activate these neighborhoods and we activate the downtown core.
I think it's going to take some like conscious effort on our part. Like we're going to have to market to ourselves that like we need to invest in this, like personally. We all need to come together and
go to the fall festival. Go to Downtown Delights. Actually do the things. Go to Celebrate Erie and so.
Even if you consider them cheesy or like not as good as X, Y, or Z. I don't have a good example
Right.
of what, like Lollapalooza or something.
Right.
To date myself.
Coachella.
Yeah. It's still worth it for us to do this as a community to like, you know, to keep that. I don't know. It.
Are you enjoying yourself? I have to wrap up. Are you enjoying yourself here in Erie?
A little bit, yes. It kind of.
I mean, you think it was a good move, right? I mean,
yeah, I don't know. Like, to be honest, I don't know if I'd stay, but or I'm going to stay forever. But like, it was a good move. I like being here. I love being next to the lake and the sunsets, and my girlfriend and I love being here. So yeah, generally positive, but you know, like I'm not ignorant of the critiques and the criticisms and stuff. So yeah.
We're going to leave it there. Dylan Knight, we didn't get a chance to talk too much about your cyber threat. Maybe you can come back and talk about that.
Yeah,
okay?
no problem.
I appreciate
Anytime
you taking the time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You've been listening to The Joel Natale Show, Erie, Pennsylvania's daily podcast from TalkErie.com. Subscribe to our show on your favorite podcatcher and get involved by emailing joel@TalkErie.com.